Hello and welcome to All Nicked Up. It is Wednesday, February 15th, 2023. I am one of your hosts, Eric Holzman, and I'm here, of course, for our weekly discussion about the New York Knicks here on All Nicked Up. The Knicks did play a game tonight. They played the Atlanta Hawks and they won the game. So that's always a good thing. They won. It was 122 to 101. Really, really strong performance by Julius Randle inside. Jalen Brunson was very, very good as well. But you guys know I don't do this show by myself. So let me we only have one of the three tonight. It's like Destiny's Child, when they were 4 and then they were 2 and they were 3. So we only have one of, we have one only, and that's Ty is here. Huh?
He who remains.
That's yes, all. You are Craig, of course. Like we've told you guys in the past, he's starting a new job and his hours are very crazy right now. The funny thing is he told us, though, that his boss told him he should do the show.
Money tells you should do it, you should do it. But
right? So that was the funny thing. I was like, really? He said you should do it? He was like, yeah, he was mad I wasn't doing the show. So I'm like, all right, well, he's kind of telling you then blow off work and do the show.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, so true story, guys. I'll let you behind the curtain here. I was ready to start at 9 o'clock. I had everything set up. Everything was ready to go. And then I sent Ty the link to come in here. Where I'm like, why is he taking so long? And then he's talking about the Hawks. And I'm like, why is he talking about the Hawks? He's sending me messages. I totally forgot the Knicks were playing tonight. I completely blanked on that. So I only caught the second half. But
what I did. The Hawks didn't know they were playing the Knicks either tonight.
Yeah, man, they did not look good. I'll say that for me. The third quarter, they did make a little bit of a run in the third. But man, Randle played in the third quarter like I hope he plays all the time.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of player I like. That's what he was in New Orleans, below the free throw line, power plays, power moves, use his size.
Exactly.
Strong on the glass. Like that's how I like to watch him play. Of course, he's expanded his game, and this year he's been fantastic. So it's really, really tough to pick on him for expanding his game as a player. That's what you want to do. You want to make yourself better. So, I can't be mad at him for that. But for my own personal preferences on how he plays, that's the style I like to see him play the most. So it was a good game. To watch because we weren't freaking out at the end. Like, are they going to hold on to it?
Well, once we looked like we had control of the game for one.
Yeah, it was a nice, calm game. You didn't get excited about anything. It was a very, very, like I said, pleasing blowout win.
Finally.
Yeah, and now we head into the break, right? We head into the All-Star break. We will see Jericho Sims, obviously, in the slam dunk contest. We will see Julius Randle in the game. I don't know if they've still
Rising Stars also.
Who? Grimes? Oh, yeah, that's true. Yep. Say what's up to Joe. What's up, Joe?
Hello, JoJo.
Thanks for joining us, as always.
Sir, thank you.
So, good way. They're 6 games over 500 going into the All-Star break. And they are firmly in the 6th seed. If the playoffs started today, the Knicks would be the 6th seed. Wow. So
our goals have been met.
So that Josh Hart trade really, really solidified this thing.
The New York transplant Josh Hart.
Oh, we'll get into that in a little while. That's one of the topics I want to talk about. So we'll get into that in a little while. But first, we're in the post-trade deadline now. Obviously, all we really did was add Josh Hart and remove Cam Reddish from the roster. So what are your expectations now, the final 22 games of the season? The Knicks have played 60 games, which is a crazy amount for the All-Star break. They should really move it so that it's kind of in the middle.
Right in the middle.
But, this is what they do. So what are your expectations now that we have our roster? Our roster is set. Has it changed at all? Have your expectations changed at all?
Well, my expectations changed in the sense I don't think that we will be in the play-in. I think that's, to me, what the expectation should be, is that we are in the playoffs without having to go through the whole, going 7, playing 9, and all the et cetera that goes on with the play-in format. I think Hart kind of gives them that piece to steady that second unit, and maybe give some punch in the with the starters as well. But I think that's the whole reason for this trade was to kind of have a player that is solid and dependable, because the bench has been erratic for the most part. All season long, the continuity we once had with Derrick Rose manning the second unit, or before that, well, not before, but we also had Alec Burks at one point trying to solidify the second unit. The second unit was always the strength of the New York Knicks for many seasons now, and they kind of lost that a little bit this season for some reason. Emmanuel quickly came out, extremely erratic at one point. Obi's had injuries. Obi's also, always the mystery of Obi Toppin continues to dwell around the Garden. So you had those kind of, I guess clumsiness of the second unit going on and wasn't allowing. And then you had the Cam issue of sitting and rotting and pulling Fournier, also sitting and rotting. So, I think it kind of made for an imbalance of the potency of the second unit. Now we have somebody legitimately who's probably a 6th man. If you were to push quickly away, that would be your 6th man of the year candidate for the Knicks, Josh Hart. If we continues to on this trajectory of being a solid contributor, he would be in that 6th man role, with quickly being, I would guess, the 7th, 8th man or something like that. So it looks good. I mean, I think that they should be in the 6th seed, right where they are. I mean, prior to that, I said probably 7th, 8th seed at the most.
Right.
So I'm giving them one uptick. I think Josh Hart probably is going to, which he has when you look at it, he's given them probably about 3 wins with his contribution off the bench and kind of igniting and supporting Brunson. I think this is more therapy for Brunson than anyone. It reminds me sort of Hart coming in is like Reggie Bullock for Randall those seasons where Randall, whether Bullock was playing terrible or great or meh, whatever, he gave mental support to Julius. And then when Bullock left, Julius's mind left a little bit too. So, I think this was kind of feeding into the idea that this is a little bit of Brunson's team to a degree.
Yeah.
And he's, people have seemed to be acquiescing to his game and surrounding him. Julius has supplemented his game in a good way, a very good way. He had a couple hiccups tonight that I was a little worried about, but but he gives those out every year. It's like, Halloween candy. He's going to give it out every game. some bad candy to rot your teeth. So you're going to get that from Julius, but we've seen him seem to want to give the reins a little bit more to Brunson than him believing that he should be the one getting them. We've had a couple hiccups with him, but other than that, the Knicks should be the 6th seed. I don't think they're going to get 5th and 4th. 4th is, I think, out of the question. 5th, I got to look at the standings. Who is 5th?
No, they could. The Nets are 5th right now, so they
could get that 5 spot if the Nets start to plummet.
Yeah, they're only.
I don't think there's another team after the Knicks down. Like if you went from 6, like you do 7, 8, 9, 10, who was ever following that, I don't see a team, especially how Atlanta played tonight. I don't see a team jumping to 6 or 5.
Only the Heat, right? Only the Heat are kind of in that conversation right now. When you look at that, with the Knicks, I think the Knicks, Brooklyn, and Miami will be 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
I do believe that eventually it'll probably be the Knicks and Miami at 5 and 6, and then 7 would probably be the Nets.
Yeah.
The Nets are 34 and 24. They're 2.5. They're 2 games up on the Knicks right now. But so, I mean, they have a couple games in hand. Yeah, that's actually true. Joe just brought up a good point, which I'll put on screen.
Mm-hmm.
If they got the 5, they would probably play Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs in the first round, which of course is probably what the Garden is praying for.
Oh yeah,
right?
They are.
I'm sure they are praying for that to happen.
Yeah, because we've been against the Cavs. That's the one team that.
Yeah.
We've funny enough, you would have never thought that with this
Donovan
Mitchell trade. you know, it's not really a hot take, but it does show. We've often talked about Donovan Mitchell when the Knicks were the trade that wasn't, that never happened, that aged us, whatever you want to call it, the dang on trade at this point, or non-trade. This was always the question with Donovan Mitchell. And granted, he had an outstanding, obviously, 74-point game or whatever it was, some ridiculous number, and you got to give, tip your hat to that performance. But this is the same thing. Like when you have a guy who's a reported superstar coming from a team like Utah, where they had great success in the Western Conference, which was considered the toughest conference at the time. You thought Cleveland would be a little bit different,
right?
Albeit they're better than us on statistic wise, in the standings. But I don't know. I was thinking that they'd probably be one of the top 3 teams as opposed to hovering around that 4th, 5th spot. I would have never pictured them to be there. They're wishy-washy. I don't know. They're a little iffy. And to me, they have everything that's better than the Knicks, but they can't beat the Knicks, which is very strange when you think about that, because they have more talent from all the way through the whole roster. Is more talented, in my opinion, than the Knicks. But what kind of factor is Donovan Mitchell being to Cleveland other than being the individual star we know him to be? But has his game put that franchise way ahead of a team like us, who seemingly are devoid of a superstar? Donovan Mitchell is a superstar in most people's category, but is he much better than what Brunson is providing for the Knicks now and impacting the Knicks with? They're about even. I don't see the big difference. Like the big jump should have been Cleveland going from that team that was, on the cusp. The season prior, we're watching them like, oh, if they get that one piece, and Cleveland didn't give up a lot to get Donovan, so the core of their magic is still there. So it's like you were thinking that one of them would make a leap. Maybe Mobley's been a little bit hindered since coming in. That's a good question. Since Donovan Mitchell's come in, Mobley, maybe we're not seeing the best of him or seeing that growth that should come through him, because some of the offense should be ran through him. Donovan Mitchell wants the ball a lot.
I think that we've caught Cleveland at a good time a couple of times. I remember one it was after on a back-to-back.
Yeah. In Brooklyn.
Yeah. So I think we've caught them a couple of times in a good spot, because the first game we played them, they rolled us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they rolled us. I remember Mitchell hit like 5 or 6 threes or something like that. Some kind of crazy game.
Yeah.
In Cleveland. I remember that game because it was the first. It was the first of many where I was like, it was the first one where I said, okay, the 3-point shot is still a problem.
Yes.
And it's still a problem to this. Like it's still an issue for this team right now.
Yeah.
When they lose games, look at how many threes the other team hit, and you'll see 3-point defense was bad that game. So it's still an issue for this team. But yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I think they just match up well with Cleveland for whatever reason. I don't know why. I don't understand it. Sometimes you just match up well with the team, even though they're a great team, right? Like you just match up well.
Orlando with Boston. They own Boston right now.
Right. That's just kind of like, it's probably what the Knicks are to Cleveland right now. Like we're kind of their kryptonite, I guess, in a way. Even though they're, like you said, they're a much more talented team. They're still young. They're still a young team, though. Yeah. Mitchell and Kevin Love, they have some veterans, obviously, between those two guys, veteran star players. Love used to be a star. He's not anymore, but he was. So, like, they have some leadership there from those guys. They have Ricky Rubio, too. So, I mean, they have guys on that team who have played in the NBA for a while. Mm-hmm. But, for some reason, I don't know. It's just a team we match up well against. So, if we were to play Cleveland, I think that's the one team we would have a shot to beat in the top 4. I don't think any of the other 3 teams we would have a shot. I think Milwaukee, Philly, and Boston would beat us. But I do think
is Philly. Philly's a weird team. Not because I think that they are less than us. It's just sometimes I don't think they know they're more than other teams. It's really their mentality about how they get into the playoffs and all of a sudden it gets a little wishy-washy with funny enough, with the coaching. And then secondly, about what star is showing up. Are we getting the Embiid MVP star? Are we getting the Harden throwback star? Sometimes those guys tend to drift in their approach to the games where they don't impose their dominance the way they should. And we know Harden's been able to check out of series, which is one of the most baffling things. He has checked out a series, and then you're left with Embiid, who sometimes, I don't know, he might have been a Geno's, he might have been a Pat. I don't know what the day happened before that, but he might have had a cheesesteak meltdown. Ishka Bibbles, shout out to Philly. Greg, I know him, but but just to say that it seems like sometimes, Cameroon is not as as an influence to go out and impose his will.
All right.
He should be an MVP. He should be the MVP almost every year.
Well, he might get it this year.
Maybe
because they don't like giving it to guys 3 times in a row, so I don't think they're going to give it to Jokic again.
Yeah.
So I think he might win it this year. Bob just put something in the chat that I have to bring to our attention because we need to tell him you need to go. You are, dude, Bob, you are the guy who always talks about those teams, so you need to be there. Dole out the $200.
Oh, next Saturday when the Knicks honor the name. Oh, Bob, you got to go, Bob.
You have to go, man. That's something you have to do.
You like Bob, this message to you like connect to the generations and you make us not forget that era, that era that has been so important that unfortunately I think the Garden has forgotten in a lot of ways other than these tribute $200 nights of connecting those players from the 70s to this modern day connection as far as, when you hear guys like Clyde say he's never asked, he's never talked, never sequestered to help out a team or to talk to players, and it's just such a disconnect from that era that they're the only 2 championships. I would say 73 was the last one that they had, and I was born in 73, so it's a 50-year drought. And so when hearing, you might as well go and enjoy this one, Bob, because we don't know if I'm going to see one or the rest of us are going to see any championships other than to remember those moments that are shared by people like you, with us and connecting how wonderful that time was. So, you should spend the $200. Money will never satisfy you like experiences. I've learned that over time. Go have the experience over the money.
I agree. I'm with Ty on that, dude. Go have a good time. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy that team. I'm sure all of the living members of that team are going to be back. So definitely go. That's my advice to you. Just really quickly back to what you're saying about the Sixers. I do agree with you for a lot of it, but at the end of the day, they have the best player on both teams. And I think in a 7-game series, he can win a couple of games for them by himself, and he might. And if he does, I just don't see the Knicks being able to beat them 4 times. Maybe I can see it going 6. I could see Knicks getting 2 games, but I just don't see it. It would be cool if it did. It'd be cool. I'm not gonna lie. It'd be cool if the Knicks got that far, but I don't even want to think that far ahead because then nothing will happen. It's crazy to even think. It's crazy to even think about that. So let's not go there. But I'm kind of with you on where they'll be at the end of the season. I think they'll be 5. You say 6. I think they'll be 5, 6, or 7. They're going to be somewhere in that range, but I definitely think it'll be 5 or 6. I think the Nets are going to fall off. Not because, they did pretty well for themselves, I have to say, with the players they got in that trade, but they just don't. They're kind of like we are now in the fact that they don't have a true star. I guess you can call Randall a star this year. He's an all-star. So, and Brunson, you got to, I guess, consider them all-stars, even though Brunson's not on the team. But I just feel like the Nets are going to drop off. So it'll probably be the Knicks and Miami 5, 6 in some order.
Yeah.
And then the Nets will probably be 7. That's just how I'm reading it this way. Yeah. All right. So you brought up something and I want to talk about it. So let's talk about it. All right. Josh Hart. I have to call him out. Now, on the court, he's been great. He's been great. 3 games here. He's looked excellent. He's actually hitting his 3-point shot.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing because this team, as we know, has problems hitting threes. So it's nice to have a guy who's come in here and has been hitting that shot. But dude, seriously, you've been here 2 freaking minutes. I don't need to read about you talking like this is our city and You posted that video when he got traded with listening to Ja Rule's New York in the background, and I'm just like, I mean, you have to earn that, right? Like that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
You have to earn being able to call New York your city anywhere you go. Like, it sounds silly being here a couple games, like, oh, this is our city, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, come on. Like, that bothers me. And I don't know why it bothers. It shouldn't. I should be happy that a guy wants to come here and speak positively about it. But man, it just bugs me. I don't know why. I don't know.
I think it's for me. As soon as I saw the video, I made a couple comments on some of the other people's threads regarding that, and I've always been a person. Obviously, I talk about wanting a dog in New York all the time, and Brunson's a dog. Brunson's a dog, but he's a quiet dog. He came in, had every right to claim New York. His father played here. He's from Jersey area. So he knows the lay of the land. It would have been easy to say, "Not this is my city, my house." But same with a guy like Donovan Mitchell. If he came here, he's got the roots.
He's from here. Yeah,
he's from here. Clearly from here. Clearly reps the city. Clearly reps the state, etc. We can understand that. RJ Barrett. I wrote an article about RJ. Comparing him to Nas's album. This is. He embodies the New York vibe. He has roots. He has blood here in the ground, literally, as Alan says all the time. So we're moving to this guy, and I would say it was a little too much light skin energy for me. That was just the way I kind of took it. I can say that. To me, it was too much light skin energy. I'm watching him, and I called him, it was G Money, and Cash Money Brothers. CMB, we CMB. He's talking to Nino on the rooftop, and what happened next? Nino got rid of him. He's like, "You're not about that life yet." It was my Carter. It wasn't your Carter. He was working at the children's store, Carter. You weren't running the Carter. I was running the Carter. That's how I feel about Josh Hart. I love the energy. I love how the energy he plays with on the floor. I love the enthusiasm. I love that he's a dog about it, that he's competing. I love that aspect about it. But you can lose the cachet. We don't need that in New York. We don't need you claiming the streets of Brooklyn and the mean streets of Manhattan like you've been there your whole life. You basically, from what I learned tonight, I think the connection is, in no disrespect to his uncle, but he had an uncle that played for the New York Yankees. And I guess by proxy, he is living in the spirit. He was I think one of the first black players.
Okay.
New York Yankees. And this is stemming back. He never met his uncle, mind you, from what I understand, what I read, what I heard tonight. But he's kind of channeling, I guess, the ghosts of New York past in a sense. And he's, feeling like he's got some sort of kinetic connection to his uncle, and he's in the city now where his uncle played. All right, great, great story. But when you're going to the New York, to the New Jersey, Brooklyn Nets or whatever you want to call them, and you're having these conversations like, this is beep beep bleep bleep bleep. We'll bleep out whatever it is. My city, you already knew it, and it's like, dude, wait a minute. It took Patrick Ewing never said it was his city. You might have said it's my house, but you don't talk about my city. To be a New Yorker, I always say it's something that's ingrained in you that only New Yorkers know about. So when you come here and you decide to use those vocal cords to express, because you listen to some of the hardcore hip hop, and I always said, let's keep it a buck. You were playing Ja Rule. Well, I mean, let's just keep it a buck for anybody who want to be a hip hop talker. Ja Rule is not the dude that you want to use for toughness. His voice is tough.
I'll say though, I agree with you, but I'll say that song, it does come. It's a hard song, right?
Oh, it's a hardcore song. And it reps a lot of different MCs in that song.
Right, Fat Joe's in it.
Yeah,
Jada Kiss is on it.
Yes, I mean, but we don't know because he's from Cranbrook. I don't know now, Jada. I mean, dog, I love your music, Jada. But you in that little light skin era too, and you
But
ain't.
we didn't know that at the time when the song came out. We didn't know that, so
Yeah, no, he was fired. Jada's been fired up until that last interview. Until that
yeah.
last interview, you like supposed to Jada. Hey, I love you.
Yo, his father blew him up. That was hysterical.
I
That
mean,
was funny.
your brother, your father, you should have just unplugged his mic. He's a liar. This is a digital conversation. It never happened. So
That's funny.
it's something. But I
Oh, that's
digress.
funny.
You picked one of the not so tough MCs reputation wise. His voice and the gravelly voices. But dude, if you pick Nas, you pick some Wu-Tang or something, and you did that line, maybe I'd have bought a little bit of that. But just because you can recite hip hop lines and lyrics of New York MCs, that don't make you a New Yorker. That'll make you a New Yorker. And that doesn't mean you got to come here. I just didn't like the fact that you try to borrow the culture, because New York is a culture in itself. You can't find any city or state that's like New York. If you don't believe it, leave here. Leave from New York and go somewhere else, or be a non-resident and come here. And you'll find that there's nothing like this. So it's authentic. People might think that New Yorkers are brash and whatever, bravado, but it's because we know what that concrete feels like here. No matter where you're from, the air is different, everything's different, and it's part of we wear it, we don't talk it. That's the whole thing. We wear it, we don't talk it. And for him to come in a little bit too, I'm like, pump your brakes, dude. Just go on the court and play ball. The accolades
that'll come. Right, exactly. That's gonna come.
They will adopt you. Then you can do whatever you want. You can say this is my city, but you can't do it in 1 week.
Yeah, that it was just it's like he's trying too hard.
Yeah.
Like, dude, just play hard. Play like you're playing, and we will love you, and eventually we will call you one of our own. Yeah. But it's something that you have to earn. Mm-hmm. And I know he won Big East titles in Madison Square Garden when he was with Villanova. I get all that. I understand all that. But that's a Philadelphia team. You didn't do that for St. John's. Yep. You didn't do that for Manhattan. You didn't do that for one of the teams from here. You did it for a Philadelphia team. So just play hard, earn that, and eventually, I'm telling you, the fans will just embrace you. And again, I'm crazy. Ty's crazy. We're crazy. Like you don't have to listen to us. We're just two, older Knicks fans, old New York Knicks fans who thinks it's a little silly right now. That's all. Yeah. Right? We just think it's a little bit silly for you to be going there. All right. So the other big topic around the Knicks, you can't avoid it. It's been RJ Barrett more, but also Obi Toppin for me. Although Obi did hit a couple threes tonight, which again, whatever. But I put in the headline reads, "Are they being phased out?" Now, people will look at tonight's game and say, "Well, at one point Barrett led the team in field goal attempts. He shot 16 shots, whatever."
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I guess you want to say he's not being phased out, but what I mean by that is, with the advent of Brunson coming here and clearly becoming either the first option or the second option, depending on how you want to look at it, his role has changed to the point where you can tell now when I watch him, his confidence is less, because to me, he's thinking more. He's thinking a little bit more about, where should I fit in? What should I do? Where should I be on the court? Whereas last year, when he was the second option, or even the first, towards the end of the season, he was the first, there was none of that. There was none of that. Like, he knew what his role was, and he played it well. So I'm just wondering if it's another adjustment period for him. Is he just having to make this adjustment right now? And unfortunately, he has to do it in season where, Thibodeau's not going to sit him and not going to take him out because he knows how important he is to the franchise? Or is this something that it's starting to crack the one thing I've said he's always had is that confidence. Is that starting to crack? What do you think?
I think it's several things with how this team is, obviously how it's coached up, and also the players that are the key ball handlers now on the team. Let's start with RJ. There's clearly things that are missing in his game that we've highlighted over and over. No matter how much our we've had fandom for him. We've talked about his shortcomings, things he needed to work on. And, the notorious slow starts have always been, a kind of an asterisk or stain on his resume so far as a New York Knick. And I think it's given a lot of the fan base, anxiety. When he comes out, I've had it when I watched him. I think it was a season or two ago, come out and like ridiculously fire up shots, and I'm like, well, dude, just it's cute. You worked on your jump, your shot, but it's not hitting right now. It might behoove you to mix up your game a little bit and not try to be stuck on the things that you worked on during the summer. Show a little bit of versatility. And we've noticed, 1 or 2 months in, something clicks. He starts balling out, and the guy that was drafted third comes out, and we say, wow, we know he's worked on his game. We're seeing, the accolades come out. We just wish he would start quicker. So, each season it's been something like ... with RJ. You worked on your jump shot, and we see the improvements. We wish we would see it early ... Then we said, well, his defense needs to be better. His defense was good at one point. And it's ... So at RJ, it's always been a continuum of things that we are waiting for the whole package to evolve. And in that process, you are in New York, Josh Hart, if you want to know one thing on New Yorkers, they're impatient. They will throw the kid out before it gets out the birth, canal in New York, because they're like, well, I bought all the Similac, and you're not here to drink it yet. Well, the doctor told you it was going to take 9 months, not 5 months. This is the New York mentality with their athletes. They expect them to ascend and be great when not realizing that some athletes are anomalies and others need and require work, the work to be put in before they can actually be at the height of their skill level and their talents. And in saying that, we've watched some rough patches with RJ. And recently it's been the defense. The defense is bad. I've always had a little bit of theory with him. I've discussed it off camera a lot about, I think RJ's not fully healthy. I think his leg looked like it was dragging from the beginning of the season. It doesn't look like he's as mobile. You catch him one game from another, he may seem like he's really good, and in another game he looks like he's lethargic, running in mud. This has just been his up and down. Like when his legs go, they go real bad, or once they kick back in, he looks like he's like a phenomenal athlete. And knowing that, we've known his shooting has been the greatest concern, his efficiency more so we should say. So, yeah, there's some tightening things he has to do. His finishes around the rim have always been something to think about.
That's been better this year, actually.
But that's what I'm saying. But that's my – like this year, if Knicks fans were to pull it back, he's not playing terrible. What is cosmetically, he looks bad on certain plays. But let me give you the biggest news flash to Knicks fans. They find one person to zero in, and then they make that their hallmark moment of complaint. There's no Knick playing great perimeter defense.
That's true.
There's no Knick. It's not just RJ Barrett. RJ just has glaring moments because you're seeing Julius score a lot of points and get rebounds. You see Brunson scoring a lot of points but not a lot of assists. But you see them, their prowess in scoring. But New Yorkers are blind to the fact that there are other aspects of the game. Like Brunson, I think was tonight. It's the first time he's had 10 assists in over a month. I think that was said. So we're going back to what a point guard is supposed to be doing. This is not knocking the guys, but I'm just saying be fair in all your analysis of some of the talent. Yeah, RJ has holes in his game. We've been knowing about it. He's not to use a 22-year-old excuse, but I ask you, are these normal circumstances that these guys have been playing in under this coach, under supposed development in New York? And I know people go, oh, we'll throw one. Oh, look how great he made Quentin Grimes. Has anybody watched Quentin Grimes play lately?
Yeah, he hasn't been good.
He hasn't been good. Love him, but he hasn't been good. He hit 1 3-point tonight. I want to know how many he's missed before that one.
Well, look, I mean, that's why I put Toppin on this list too, because I mean, I tweeted out from the show account after he hit the three. I was like, remember when Obi Toppin used to dunk the ball? And I said, me neither. Like I put underneath, I said, me neither, because like that part of his game is gone. Like he's literally like Robert Ory, Steve Novak. Like that's what he does now. He goes to the corner, all the way on the perimeter, and shoots threes.
Shoots threes. He's waiting.
And that is not what they drafted him for. That is not the player he is. And I understand they have Randall, and I get that part. And Randall's playing great. So it's really hard to be like, we need to sit you down because we have this kid who we drafted 8th to replace you, but you got better. And now, oh well. Like, like with this kid. He's going to have to just wait and see. And that's detrimental to the team. There has to be a way. We've talked about this in the past. Mitchell Robinson has been out for how long? And I like Jericho Sims, but not at the expense of having Obi Toppin's offense on the floor. Like, to me, he needs to play center or move Julius to center. He likes to Tibbs likes to talk about how Julius can play center. So do that and put Toppin at power forward and let him play that position, because that's the value there. That's what he is. The three-point shot should be a part of his game, not his total game. So when I say, is he being phased out too? We already know he doesn't play a lot of minutes, number one. Mm-hmm. And number two, when he does play, he's not even being used to the best of his ability. He's just, like I said, he's being used as a three-point shooter. So is Tibbs just playing him because he has to? Because he was a high pick and the Knicks have to justify it? I can even say that about Barrett too. Like if Tibbs came out and said, you know what, we're gonna RJ's struggling right now, we're gonna sit him, or we'll put him we'll bring him off the bench for a little while, see if that works. Just not as a punishment, but to just be like, that way he'll have a chance to work at things a little better. He could be more of a focal point on offense with the second unit. If he said it like that, I think you could say, okay, no, they're not phasing him out. They're just changing his role. They're giving him more of a starring role in the second unit, and that would be fine. Like, I don't want to see him get benched, but I'd understand it for floor balance and things like that, and balancing the roster. I'd understand it.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. I feel like he's playing both of them now more because he has to, not because he really wants to. And it's been shown in the fourth quarters. Now Quickly is playing over Barrett down the stretch. And I personally don't see the benefit of playing a 6'4" guy and a 6'1" guy, and then another 6'5" guy, however tall Hart is, I forget. Those three guys at the same time, that 3-guard lineup. I don't understand playing that, even if RJ's not like playing great defense. At least he's taller, stronger. I feel better with him out there on some guys, but I don't know. It's just a very, very strange dynamic with the team right now, with these two young guys who are supposed to be cornerstones for your team, and I feel like they're being completely ignored, left behind. Barrett, yes, his play has not been great, so I understand if they do that with him, but it just seems kind of like an overarching thing now with the coaching staff. That's my take.
I think that for me, I think it goes back to my take on Tom Thibodeau. If you look at the Knicks,
I know what's coming.
Well, you don't like athletes. I always say that, but when you look at the, I go back to a couple things. I listened to what Emmanuel Quickly said. I think it was last season, and his thing is that if you go out and commit to playing defense, Tom will let you run anything you want when you got the ball. See, that to me is a little disturbing, because that is exactly what you're seeing now. They don't run plays. We don't have a playbook. I heard Wally say that garbage tonight. Oh, this is part of the play that Tom. I'm like, dude, if you wanted to get to the head of the class by kissing, Shrek's little buddies, behind, that's fine. But come on, let's keep it a buck. We don't have an offense. What we have is guys who are capable of getting their own shot. And that's been the grit of the offense, period. Guys who can create their own shots. They get the ball and can do whatever they want with it. And that's why guys like RJ, guys like Obi Toppin, even a guy like Grimes right now, they have to be a product a little bit more of an offensive set. They have to play within a team concept a little bit more. What is happening is that they're doing the opposite of what Phil Jackson did with Michael Jordan. He told Michael, yeah, you can get all the shots you want. We know you're capable of it. The triangle isn't for you, it's for everyone else. See, Tom doesn't care whether or not RJ is getting a point or Obi's getting a point because his whole mind in the offense is, well, Julius can get his point and Brunson can get his. That's good enough for me. I don't care if the other guys can't get it. Manuel quickly can jump up his own shot. So anybody who has a decent enough dribble package to get up their own shot can do whatever they want in their offense. If you're a guy who needs to have a pick set for you, that's another thing. Wally said, no, Knicks run a lot of pick and roll. Well, they might have picked and got a butter roll because I have not seen pick and roll 4 years now. I don't know what he's watching. You know, other than Rebecca, he might be watching her. I don't know what he's watching where he saw a pick and roll package. Has anybody been watching a pick and roll in a Knick uniform? Consistent basis? I've watched a consistent pick of isolation ball. We've seen a lot of heavy isolation. Guys get the ball, do what they want to do with it. The difference is that RJ Barrett doesn't have maybe the inherent skills to be an off the bounce player. Obi Toppin's not an off the bounce player. That's why they are. I don't think they're getting so much as phased out as much as he doesn't know what to do with them. I don't think he can develop a system of play that can incorporate people other than a guy like Josh Hart. Like people are looking at Josh Hart and they go, "Oh, look at Josh Hart. He's a garbage guy." That's what he is. He cherry picks. He doesn't need plays ran for him. He's going to sit out in the corner because his game is centered around playing a broken style of basketball. He's a
glue guy, yeah.
He's just a glue guy. Anybody's a glue guy, they're going to eat no matter what. They're going to fill up the stat sheet. That's what they do. A guy like Hart is going to fill up the stat sheets. He's just playing glue minutes at center.
He's been great lately, too.
And he's been playing great, too. And he's going to block. He's going to rebound. Same thing Mitchell Robinson's going to do. He's going to block and he's going to rebound. They're not saying give me the touches. Their games is predicated. They have basically embraced their roles. Whereas a guy like RJ Barrett and a guy like Obi Toppin, they never had embraced the role. They were the role. They were the centerpieces of their team. And now you're asking these guys to suddenly become Emmanuel Quickly's, suddenly become Deuce McBride, guys who are going to play off of other people and just go out and do the dirty work. And they're like, wait a minute. I was college player of the year. What do you mean go do what they were going to do? RJ Barrett, I was the highest recruited player, one of the highest recruits in the high school coming into college.
He was number one, yeah.
Number one. So you want to tell me I got to go play this kind of game? But you, and then you're going to talk glowingly about a role player coming in here, like he's LeBron James. Literally, I mean, Josh Hart. The way he gushed over Josh Hart is like, dude, you do know this guy's been a role player his whole career. He has not been a superstar, and it's not no offense to him. It's like, oh, you know, Josh affects winning, and he does all this, and like, dude, you almost lost your job over a role player. That to me is a weird dynamic. So when guys like Obi and you get to guys like RJ, they're being phased out in a certain way because this coach doesn't have an answer on how to play any of those guys.
It's true. I mean, we've talked about their lack of a specific offensive system. Like when people ask you what the Knicks are, they'll tell you they're gritty, they're a hard-nosed team, they compete, they play hard, all that stuff. But they won't look at their offense and say they play a really, an offense you have to like prepare for. Mm-hmm. It's just ISO, Brunson ISO, Randall ISO, and then guys just feed off of that. Like whatever happens. Mm-hmm. And Barrett too, like he gets ISOs. I'm not going to say he doesn't, but those have been far, far less this year since Brunson has been here. And I mean, we've talked about Brunson in the past, and I'm happy he's here. He's been great. He's been more than any of us could have asked for, but he's not the type of guard that makes guys better. He's a scoring point guard. That's his mentality, and that's fine. That's what the NBA is nowadays. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of scoring point guards, obviously, but then you look at someone like Trae Young, who also is a scoring point guard, but he averages 10 assists a game, 11 assists a game. Like he's getting other guys involved. And Atlanta's not good, so maybe that's a bad description or a bad comparison. Yeah. But you want someone, to me, when you have other guys around you who are talented, who are scorers, you want to have somebody who can get them the ball. And I'm not just talking about Barrett. I'm talking about, I mean, obviously I'm talking about Obi too, who many people have said when they were looking at him coming into the NBA, they called him Amari Light. Like he was a lighter version of Amari, not as polished, not as athletic, because Amari before his knee was like ridiculously athletic, like sick Sean Kemp level athlete.
Yeah.
But he's a very, very good athlete. I'd even say he's a great athlete. So we don't have anyone here to do that for him. I mean, they always like to say, well, Quickly's not a point guard. We've been down this road before too. There's just certain players. The only real point guard they have on the team is McBride.
He's done now.
Right. And he doesn't play anymore.
He's done.
That's just, you pick these guys in the draft, right? You pick them in the lottery. So these are two guys you considered cornerstones of your team. You should have put the time to develop them. Yeah, Barrett averaged 20 last year. That's great. Second half of the season, he was fantastic. He shot like 46%. He averaged like 25 a game. Second half of the season, he was great last year. So we all thought, and I think that's why people are having the reaction now that they're having.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to be even better.
Mm-hmm.
But they brought in a guy who takes a lot of shots and he's efficient. So you can't really be mad at that. He hits them. It's not like he's missing shots. If Brunson was out there chucking up shots and they were just missing, then you'd be like, want to strangle him. But he's hitting them. He's been a big reason why they're where they are. He's either the reason or the second reason. I would say he's the reason. I think he is better than Randall, and he should be the one in the All-Star game if I had to choose.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, it's just I don't know what to do going forward with these two players. Like, if the Knicks get a good package over the summer for either one of them, I don't want to trade them. But if this is the guy you're going to stick with as the coach, then maybe they need to. Maybe they're not going to get Donovan Mitchell again, so forget that. I mean, if this is what they had planned, then they should have done that trade. They should have, if the trade was actually offered, which again, I don't believe it was, but if it actually was, they should have made the trade. Like, what's the point? Like, why are you're not developing these guys anymore? Now you're like, we need to win. And the development is gone.
I just don't think that what I've subscribed to. I don't think they know what the HE helicopter they're doing. I don't think the Knicks have a clue. I think they've concentrated on they brought in a guy who's clearly an all-star level point guard in this league. We love Brunson, so I'm not going to bash Brunson about really much of anything other than, it would be nice if he passed the ball or got his teammates a little bit more involved. That is my one thing I'll talk bad about with him, which I don't think is even a high ask. You're a point guard. You should average 7 to 8 assists a game, in my opinion, as a point guard. That's just, I'm old school like that. 20 and 10 was like the golden thing for a point guard, in the 80s. So I grew up in that time era. So I'm thinking that every point guard should probably have near 10 assists a game. Why would you not? That's your job. But, getting to the point of the Knicks organization, you have talent out there. And we've noticed that, granted, Josh Hart has worked out. We've seen the trade for Derrick Rose work out. But they work out in a little bit of a time slot. You bring them in, they offer some, they ignite a fire underneath the team with their play. They are good for playoff pushes. But what is the end result? What is the end game? Let's go to the Marvel comments. What is the end game for the Knicks as a franchise? That is the question we never hear anything about. The only thing, the Knicks are pushing for a playoff spot. Knicks are pushing to get into the 6th spot. Knicks, which when you think about when you hear that as an organization, when these announcers go, the Knicks are pushing for the 6th spot, it's like, should that be a goal? Should that be something you celebrate, that you're pushing for a 6th spot, doing everything to get that 6th spot? It's like your goal should be to get the highest seed you could ever get, and your goal is a championship at the end of the day as a franchise. So I don't care if we get a 6th seed. I don't care if we get a 4th seed. My main purpose is, can we be ever the best team in the league and win a championship? And I don't think the Knicks have ever had their sight on anything other than playoff seats and the nostalgia that was brought upon with the bubble, where they became even more relevant and had the fanfare, because Knicks fans have been starving so long that, this was overly celebrated. But I think Knicks fans need to pump their brakes a little bit and ask themselves, is this front office and this franchise really concerned about the fans, or is it more concerned about the marketing? Because, what are we going to win when you have two guys you drafted at the as pieces? You have somebody you use the third pick on. We go back to the same caveat I said about, albeit I think Knox was waste management. I didn't think Cam was a great player. Another waste management. But you keep putting and attaching assets to guys to correct your mistake. But when are you going to attach assets to get a better team, or use those assets to get a better player to build for a championship? We've seen that you're willing to sacrifice it to eradicate issues, but you never sacrifice with a plan in mind of getting this team to a top level, top 8 team in the league. We don't see that. We're seeing you try to make a marketing move, basically. So Josh Hart is going to come in here and help you get to the 6th seed, and all of a sudden you've won the lottery. You've won the trade, and then guys are going to want to come here because Josh Hart, and you won the 6th seed. That's not even realistic. It's like, what kind of talent? We don't have a superstar on this team. Your whole job is to get superstar talent on this team that will not just bring only people there, but bring a championship to your organization. They have no plan for that, because you wasted a third pick on RJ now. You see, we're going down this road again. The third pick of the draft, you wasted on RJ Barrett, whether it's his fault or their fault, no matter which way you want to go. You didn't have a definitive plan on what to do with the kid. He was playing behind Julius for 3 years. You didn't have a plan for him. And the other guy, we're talking about Obi Toppin, he's playing behind Julius for 4 years. So when have these guys ever been your player that you vested in trying to build a franchise around? Usually when people draft 3rd to 8th pick, they're starters on any team. They're not They're not guys sitting on the bench. The Knicks were too terrible to be having guys sit on the bench with talent. We've been a crappy team. The one bubble moment, as you've said and we've said millions of times, ruined this franchise in a lot of ways because expectations change. You don't draft somebody 3rd and 8th and you've never seen them play a full season as a starter. Are you serious?
Well, Barrett has. Barrett's played every season. He started every game every season.
But he's never been the star of the team.
Right. Only when Julius was out last year.
Yep.
And then we saw both him and Toppin play, and they both played very well. So I know it was a small sample size for Toppin, and I know that it wasn't, obviously it's not enough to say they weren't a good team. So you don't want to say, well, yeah, you do that. But they've shown with increased minutes and increased opportunities, they can be better than what they are. And that brings me, I just want to comment on what Joe said here about the making the playoffs, to walk before you run. I understand what you're saying, and I think there's value in that. But if you're walking before you're running to get to a championship, that's fine. But if you're walking before you're running just to make the playoffs, which is what I think they're doing and what Ty thinks they're doing, that's problematic. So you did bring up the we're kind of talking about this going in this direction, so I'll just bring up what the next topic was. I rebuild, and then I say, like, Knicks, please. That's kind of how I'm at with this rebuild. Again, every single time they attempt to do this, something happens where they pause it, and they just they completely divert and go in the other direction. And we saw it this summer with entertaining with Mitchell, and I think that, I mean, those kinds of moves, yes, you definitely have to entertain it. He's a great player. You don't want to pass up an opportunity. If you really have a chance to get someone like that, you have to at least explore it. But like we were just talking about, we had 2 lottery picks who are still on this team who, yes, Barrett plays, Barrett starts, so that's fine. But Obi gets 10 minutes a night, and you picked him 8th. And it's not that there isn't minutes for him at other positions. The guy can play other positions. So it's not like you can't play him and Julius together, or, there's not like you can't get creative with your lineup to make sure he's on the floor.
Yeah.
It's just this coach doesn't believe in that. He doesn't do that. So, and we've talked about this. Look, I don't think Tom Thibodeau is a bad coach. I've never said that. I think he's a good coach, but to me, he's an assistant coach.
Yeah.
He's the guy who you say, you're a defensive guy, teach them the defense, get them to play what you want. then the head coach gets the input too, which is what we don't have here. Because if I was head coach, I'd be like, stop with this packing the lane crap.
Yeah.
But whatever, that would be my advice to him. But I don't think he's a bad coach. I would never say that. He knows basketball, all of that. Yes, 100%, more than I do. So I'm not even going to sit there and argue that. He's just not. He's good. He's not good with young players unless that young player is a superstar. Unless he's Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
When he came into the league,
Mm-hmm.
then he doesn't really want to take the time to develop young. But we saw it with Minnesota with Towns. He couldn't wait for Towns to mature. He got Jimmy Butler, right? That was his move. I need to get someone here who knows what I want to do. So he gets Jimmy Butler. And that did the same thing there. That's why it didn't work in Minnesota. And it's, to me, that's exactly what's happening here. He's doing it again. He started in the beginning. I thought he changed a little bit. It seemed like he might have gotten it. But hey, when you start to struggle, and everyone does this, you go back to what you know and comfortable with.
Absolutely.
And that's human nature. So when it comes to rebuilding, and people say you can't rebuild in New York, I'm starting to believe it, because every time we try, we don't complete it. It's just we divert and we switch and like, oh no, we have to win now. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's the one thing that's been bad in New York, and if we're going to talk about a rebuild, is we've never had an architect in New York other than maybe Pat Riley. Pat Riley might have been the architect.
Checkits
and Riley kind of in the same thing, but
yeah.
More my point is that of having a guy or a person, woman, whatever, who's like, I know how to build a championship, and we're going to start here. And this is what we're going to do in the next 4 years. And I will get us to the finals. You know, I think the only thing New York fans have ever asked from the Knicks is to know the plan and then to watch the plan develop. I think part of the issue in this particular case, we have a president who has not spoken publicly for the whole tenure he's been here. Now,
right. Only those controlled.
Speaking publicly, that to me is a bunch of horse caca. He never addressed the fan base and said, hey, look, as much as Meek Mills, and that's what I call Steve Mills, Meek Mills at least came out and said, we're going to be competitive. We're going to do this. We're going to try to build our young. He gave a plan. The problem was he jumped once again, he skipped a step. He traded away KP and said, oh, we're getting somebody, and we never got somebody. That's why we got Julius now. No offense to Julius, he's a great talent. But the point is that we've never had an architect that is willing to sit there for the next 4 or 5 years. You know, we look at like a guy like Sam Hinkie. What did he do? He's like, well, we're gonna tank. We're gonna tank for the longest, and we're gonna keep tanking. You know, and we'll trust the process, whatever it is. So you've seen people be able to. I think the fan base buys it if you tell them what the plan is. Like when you drafted R.J. Barrett, whether you thought he was a singular talent that can elevate a franchise. What you should have done after that is says, okay, we've watched him play. We watched him play. Not of him play beyond Julius, not him play beyond anybody. We watched him play. We make sure we didn't buy another tie that's redundant. Because in that case, if you were going to buy a Julius Randle, you don't draft RJ, you draft Darius Garland then.
Right.
And say, well, we already got our power forward. We don't want another power forward or small forward that plays and needs volume shooting. We don't want that. We want someone that can be a connector at the point position because we don't have a point guard. So when you start thinking about 5 years, 3 of those 5 to 4 of those 5 years should be you drafting very well. You drafting pieces that fit together. And then you have a coach that you believe in that's going to develop in that time frame on those timetables of developing young players. Then you can talk about adding in your vets, and then you can talk about adding in maybe in recruiting a superstar. The Knicks have never gone through those steps. They draft one player, and they go out and get a bunch of role players for that one player to play behind. This is what has been manifesting through the Knicks for the longest time, and it's made the imbalance of the fan base go bananas. Well, we're not doing anything, and we're losing. And he's not playing this guy. This guy's got this created all these hives. We had the Frank hive. We had the Cam hive. Because all these guys are sitting on the bench and they're like, well, what are they doing with these guys? What are you doing? And that's the key thing. We got to ask, what are you doing, Knicks? And that's why I think that there's no patience in New York, because we've never heard a plan. There's not. When have you heard the Knicks plan anything? They say they wheeled out a guy, says, this is our franchise player. When R.J. Barrett got drafted, the talk should have been, we've got R.J. Barrett here. We plan on building around him. You never hear them come out and say, this is the dude we're sold on. Even when KP came here, KP played behind Melo. Like you never gave a raw chance to have a singular drafted talent and build around. There's always some veteran that's either past his prime or in his prime, and you're saying that the young guy can't handle it, so therefore he's got to sit on the bench for 3 years in retro.
The crazy thing about all of this you're saying, and I agree with you, but the crazy thing about all of it is, we just said it before, they haven't won a title in 50 years. So clearly what you've been doing is not working.
It ain't working, dog.
Right? It's not working.
No.
And like you said, they had KP. The first sign of trouble, get him out of here.
Come out. Go.
They didn't try and work with him. They didn't say, no, you're too talented. We're going to keep you. They just traded him. And then they, like you said, they draft Barrett. And then a month later, they signed Julius Randle, right? That was the same year that happened, I believe. Yeah, I think that was the same year, right? So, but you're right. Like I like RJ Barrett. I think his mentality, I think his demeanor is perfect for the city. We've talked about that before. But if that was the plan, or their backup plan was if we don't get Durant and whatever, we're gonna sign Julius Randle, then you're right. They should have signed Garland, because they should have drafted Garland, because he was a player of need. I do know that he had injury problems his last season in college, so maybe that scared them away. But still, I remember even us talking about before that draft. I said I wanted Barrett, but Garland would be the next guy
Next guy, you said that.
Yeah, I said he'd be the next guy I'd want them to take, because he would finally address the point guard position. I didn't know again, at the time, I was like, I don't know if it'll work, but I seen him play, and I know he's talented, and he's turned out to be a good player. So, you're right. It's. I also think with the Knicks sometimes is they look for the guy who people will know. So like RJ Barrett, like you said, top high school recruit, went to Duke, played with Zion. He was on TV all year because he played at Duke.
Yeah.
Like, I think they see that, they're like, oh, we need him, because people he like you said, he has ties to New York. So, this whole story, let's get him. Right. Same thing with Obi, he's a New Yorker,
agent.
Right, college player of the year, big time. People know who he is. Basketball fans know who he is. They'll love this pick. Things like that. Like I think they like to make the splash, even if it's not a huge splash. I think they feel like, this'll, and that to me lends against to the point where they're not really trying to rebuild. They're just trying to get people to come to the games and get to the playoffs, and that seems to be the goal for this franchise, and it's been the goal pretty much for me. Obviously, the Ewing years they tried to win because he was a superstar talent that they had.
Yeah,
but since then, it's been kind of a lot of the same thing. It's just been, let's get Marbury. They get Stephon Marbury with a huge trade, and then I'm not going to say this, but let's add Eddie Curry to the mix, because Eddie Curry was the player on the rise, and he's going to come in and change things. And then we didn't get LeBron, so we'll just get Melo, and that'll appease the fans. And I love Carmelo Anthony. He's one of my favorite players of the last 20 years. But, he was always the consolation prize. We didn't get LeBron. Let's sign Amari. And, even though he has a knee that's about to fall off his leg,
never mind the knee. He's going to be here for, only 1 year.
Right, like all of this stuff that they do is just reactionary, and it's not.
That's the key word.
No plan. They don't think if this doesn't work, we'll just ride it out. Like when they didn't sign LeBron, they should have just been like, screw it, we're not going to sign Amari. We'll just stay the course. We'll be bad, and we'll see what happens. We'll draft again, and we'll try it again. And they still could have got Melo then, but maybe they would have had somebody else, another young player earlier in the draft that they could have
could have added to him and made, that could have been the way. I don't know. I'm speaking hypothetically, but I just don't feel. I feel like they're always trying to make up for a mistake by adding. They're adding a bigger one. Like every time they make up for a mistake, they add on a bigger one, and it's just been.
They tried to jump the brim a little too much. I always say the happiest time I had as a Knicks fan was when David Lee, Nate Robinson, and Wilson Chandler was playing, because there was some rhyme or reason to what you were drafting. You drafted something, and the Knicks were void of picks at that point. But it's like, you got a guy in David Lee who's a 20-10 player. He's going to be a double-double machine. You had Nate, who undersized but still exciting. Wilson Chandler was a small forward. You can kind of start seeing some pieces come together and go, okay, you got positions where even if they're role players, if you can add
and they had Gallo, they had Gallinari too.
Gallinari. So that was a team that, and I always thought before the Melo trade, I'm like, oh, this is going to be nice because you're going to add Melo to these guys. You're going to add Melo to these guys, and then it will be a better thing. But then it was like, oh no, we can't wait for them. We got to throw all the players in the basket, not because they were great players, but it's like you got to fill a team, and that's been always my case with the Knicks. They make a quick, sudden move of wow. They do a wow move with no. Well, what was our second plan? That's the thing. They never have a second or third plan, and that's what you're seeing now. Is like even with Thibodeau, like I don't like the winning at this cost. Like this to me is what they said, putting lipstick on a pig. Oh, it's looking cute for now. Till the pig eats all your vegetation and craps all over the place, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there around and realize you can't even use it for bacon anymore because nobody wants to meat anymore. So that's what you're dealing with. You have people got to realize we have Evan Fournier sitting on the bench and Derrick Rose. And just look at their contracts. How can you ever clearly go, wow, the Knicks are doing so good for this supposed sixth place, and we have almost $30 million of guys that no one wants that you can't get. Why is Derrick Rose still on this roster?
Yeah, why haven't they bought him out?
Why haven't you bought out Derrick Rose or Evan? Why haven't you brought out any of these guys to free up those slots?
It wouldn't. It would still count against the cap. So I understand from that standpoint, but free up slots for other guys, maybe to play the younger kids to come in and play. If right now we know that if there's an extra guard thing opens, we know Fournier's going to play because that's what Thibodeau has done. He played Fournier. So, and I'm assuming if Brunson was to get hurt, God forbid, but if he was, I'm assuming Derrick Rose would be back in the rotation somehow because he's a veteran, and I'm just assuming that. I don't know. I'm just making that assumption, but he's a veteran and he's more along what Thibodeau likes.
Trevor Keels might be starting to guard after that. You never know with this guy. I just know when I hear, and like I said, everybody likes winning. I of course you don't want to watch them lose. I mean, this is not why you buy the ticket. But I don't like celebrating, mediocrity, and that's where we are. We're getting so used to celebrating, the baby steps. It's like, oh, the baby pooped in only the diaper today. Well, you still pooped. Still pooped. So that's the same thing even with the Knicks. It's like, oh, they're making it there, but it's like this is not sustainable. Are we fighting for a 6th seed? Is this what the next 3 years? 2 to 3 years is that we hope and pray a superstar comes here because we're finishing in the 6th seed, because that seems to be the plan. I don't know if it is a plan, but to me, it seems like the plan is to stay at this level because Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle are probably having the best seasons they'll ever have in their whole life. Let's see. Now, these are guys.
I hope not for Brunson. I hope that he's.
Well, I hope he has, but let's just hypothetical. It's not like it would be a bad thing if this is him moving forward. Say this is his cap. He's capped to do this every season moving forward. We're in the 6th spot. Julius is capped out. Julius, this is his absolute best season ever. Period.
Right, and this is the second time he's done something like this, so you kind of get that this is what he is. This is what he is at his best. Yeah.
This is his height.
Yeah,
we believe in Brunson is at his height right now until further notice.
Right.
You barely get a 6 seed. You're barely in a 6 seed. We're checking the standings now as Knicks fans, going, oh, let me look at the standing. Oh man, if Miami loses, now think about it, this is when you know you're not a great team. You're waiting for other teams to beat other teams to keep you solidified. That's when you know that you have asterisks next to everything you do because you're needing help to get where you go. It's the same thing how we backed into the bubble. I would say we backed into the bubble like we were. What's that dude name? Cash Money Click. What's his name?
Juvenile.
We're doing Juvenile. We bubble backed up. Back that thing up. We backed up into the bubble. You're fine when you back that thing up. We backed that thing up into the playoffs during the bubble. People don't talk about that. We weren't great. We hit good streaks. We're doing the same thing now. We're catching teams that are because technically the East is not as great as we thought it was going to be. It's not. East is okay. It's top heavy with the top three teams. I would say are great. Fourth team is we don't know yet. 15 we don't know. The Knicks are having the benefit of playing solid basketball against a team like tonight, Atlanta Hawks, who I couldn't figure out who they were. They didn't look like the team that I know that they were supposed to be as good as. They are dealing with some issues. The Knicks have met teams that are dealing in stride of issues, and that's my point. And your best two players are probably playing their best basketball, and you're still the 6th seed. If we were the 4th seed, I go, Knicks got something. We were the 4th seed and been solidified throughout the season of being the 4th seed, that's fine. But when your best two players that are supposedly could have been both all-stars, and you're only in the 6th place in a conference that's not great, somebody holler at me and tell me what am I missing here. I'm not cheering this as much as I'm like holding on like it's a bad roller coaster ride and wondering when is it going to fall off the tracks because it does not seem sustainable and it's wishy-washy. You had to go trade for a role player to make your team great. Right. Think about it. A guy averaging 9 and 8. And Knicks fans made him MVP. They're like, oh, we need that 9 and 8 dude. We need Josh Hart. If we don't got him, we're not going up. Think about that. That's crazy. You got 2 all-stars, and you had to go find a guy on a bench or a role player on another team to make you a deadly playoff team?
Yeah, and we've talked about signature wins that this team has had this year, and a lot of them were against those teams that didn't have their star or they were lacking somebody. But just really quickly, if you look at the stats, it kind of makes sense it kind of tells you where they are. They only have they're only a +2 in point differential. So that means that they only scored 2 more points on the season that they've given up against what they've given up.
Wow.
Which, if you look at it, it makes sense to what their record is.
Makes
right?
sense.
So there's a lot of things that if you look at, I mean, people always say stats are for losers, but they might be, but they tell you how those losers became losers. So like when you look at the statistics, again, it bears out, right? Like I always talk about the 3-point shot, and they always say, well, they're third or something in 3-point field goal percentage. I'm like, yeah, but they're giving up the third most in the league.
Third most in the league.
So what is that offsets because it's not as good as it would look if they also were limiting teams from taking that many threes.
Exactly.
That's the difference. So when you just look at everything and you look at the team and you just look where they are, and the stats really give you that granular view, and you can get really down and see, yeah, you know what, they're playing well. And like you said, we're the 6th seed, and yeah, maybe they can advance, but neither one of us believe they could jump into the top 4.
No.
Right?
No.
Like neither one of us believe that. So how good are they really? And this is why coming back to the rebuild thing again. Like if we were rebuilding and we're losing, I'm okay with that because we're developing players. We're trying to get better. You're trying to make this a destination that other players either look at and say, oh, I want to go there. You know, they play a fun style of basketball. We don't play a fun style of basketball. We play this boring ass style of basketball. Mm-hmm. No player in today's NBA wants to sit around and watch a guy whirl into the lane and throw up shots and their point guard take 20 shots a game. And again, I'm not picking on Brunson. That's what he does. Yeah. And he's been good at it. But again, like I'm trying to figure out what, like you said, what the end game is here. Like, where are we headed? Where are we going? Because it seems to me that they make moves just to, like I said before, let's get in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Let's get people. I mean, they sell out anyway, so let's keep it a place for that people want to come when they visit. Let's keep it a place where people want to come, they want to watch the game, they want to hang out.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, I don't see this front office competing for a championship. And the bigger thing is they don't tell us what they want to do. So we don't even, like you said, there might be a plan, but they're not telling us the plan. So we have to get it from beat writers who have sources who are leaking it to them, because this team, you would think this team is like, the NSA or so just protecting all this. They're the CIA protecting all this information, and nobody can see it, because if we tell the fans what we're gonna do, good Lord, it might not happen.
You can't see anything.
I don't know. And again, I wanted to enjoy this season. Like, I really did. I really want to enjoy the fact that they're playing well.
Yeah.
But again, I've been through this before. Like, we've been through this before. We know where this kind of a rebuild, quote unquote, leads. This is going to be it, guys. I'm sorry to say it. It's going to be every season. If they do not develop their young guys,
yeah,
what's going to happen is Randall, like you said, will be capped, still be doing Randall things, still be losing his mind when he gets a bad call. He'll still be like, he's going to keep doing what he does. Who knows what he's going to be in the playoffs when they get there? The last time he shit the bed. Is he going to do that again this time? We have to wait and see. We don't know. Brunson, like we said, he's having a phenomenal year. It's his first time as a full-time starter. So, I don't know. Is there another level for him? Is there a place he can go? I don't know. He's 26. So usually at that point of your career, you're kind of leveling off to what you're going to be as a pro. What is there another level for him to go? And then after those two, you have a 22-year-old Barrett, right? Again, he's still 22. That's the crazy thing. People get on him and he's still so young. So we got a lot of room to grow. And then you have a 25-year-old Obi Toppin. Again, he was an older senior. So when he got drafted, who are just rotting. Like, they're not rotting, but they are because of the push to make the playoffs. Like, they're like, RJ Barrett right now is clearly struggling, but it doesn't look like anyone is going to him and being like, you know what, coaching him up. I don't know. I don't go to practices, but I don't get that feeling, because every time the coaches ask about him, I'm like, he'll be fine. He always bounces back. He'll be fine. Like, that's not a way to treat a young player who's struggling. Like, he's very mentally strong. We know that. But even mentally strong guys that young, like I said, this is the first game, the last few games I've been watching him, that he looks a little lost on the court and his confidence looks a little shot. And that's something I never thought I would say about him, but I'm seeing it. So I don't know. I want to enjoy this season. I really do. I want to try and be happy that they're going to make the playoffs and maybe, win a round. I don't know for certain, but maybe win a round, maybe win the first round. But it's just hard because I know, as presently constituted, that's their cap. That's their peak. They're not going anywhere else. This is not a championship caliber team at all.
No. It'd be by the grace of some luck they get into the second round, in my opinion. But, depending on the opponent. But, it goes back to what I always say about basketball for me. I mean, I'm an old head, admitted old head. I'm just used to point guards who would lead their team. And a guy like Barrett struggling, I just know if it's the teams that the point guards I used to watch in the 80s, they're making it a point of saying, young buck, I'm getting you going tonight because we're going to need you later. See, this. I'm always a later person, like down the line. You got to be a few steps ahead when you're talking about success. You can't base success on immediate accolades or immediate, whatever express results. You got to think down the line. If I'm Jalen Brunson, if I'm Tom Thibodeau, if I'm Julius Randle, the first thing I'm going is that we plan on trying to go to the playoffs this year. we can't have the young kid over here looking like this. You know, we can't have him out here struggling because there's going to come a time where we got to get him right. I mean, we go back to I hate to borrow a Fizdale line, or even like a guy like Woody would have said, "We got to get you right." You know, he said the same thing. Fizdale said it to Emmanuel Mudiay. I don't know why he said it to Emmanuel Mudiay, but Mud, we got to get you right. Same thing. A guy like Mike Woodson would have said. He went to JR. We know JR was troubled. We knew he was greatly talented, could never seem to focus. You know, he's worried about Hennessy more than anything. We know what was going on. What did Woody do? Woody was like, "Come here, Buck. Let me holler at you. Let me. You're sitting next to me now on here, because I know I'm going to need you later. So let me reel you in now, because we know what Melo is. We know how important you are if you stay and keep your head in the game, because he's going to need you. Because what we saw in Atlanta, when Julius had the ball taken from him and they annihilated him, there was no one else confident enough to step up and say, "I got this." Brunson is the head of the whole snake when you think about it. When teams start putting lengthy guys on him, long athletic guys on him, is when he's going to catch hell in the playoffs.
We've seen it already. We have seen it.
The formula's out.
Dallas did it to him. Yep.
If I know that sitting on the couch, then imagine guys who actually get paid a living for this. So when you're watching that, it would behoove them to say, we got to make sure that the other guys are going to eat. Not wait for Emmanuel quickly to come in and throw up a shot, which they're going to nullify that in the playoffs. You're not all of these things that you're seeing the Knicks do, this heavy isolation, you know, not running a system of play. It's going to bite hard in the playoffs. When you get a coach next to them that say, "I got you for how many games? 7 games at least? I'm going to adjust on everything I know that you can't do great." The NBA has always been about taking away what you do great and seeing what you can do after that. So, you know, we've seen the greatest players, you know, get taken out of games until they learn to develop their game, because during series, guys can zero in on what you do great and make sure you're not getting that. And we saw tonight, Julius Randle checked out from the second quarter mentally up until maybe the game ended, because he came out of halftime still arguing with the ref about a play that happened in the first quarter. He couldn't let it go. So imagine when the playoffs come and these guys know what's going to frustrate him. The one guy who doesn't get frustrated mentally is RJ Barrett. He's the one guy who is about as stone cold as a robot. So it would benefit you to say, "Hey, you know what, coach? I know I can get my own shot. We got to get this young kid off. We got to get him going. We got to get guys like Obi going. We need them come playoff time." We're not seeing any of that. We're seeing guys saying, "Oh, I know I'm going to get mine off." I know
That's exactly what it is.
And that's not winning basketball at the end of the day. It's not going to win you anything. What it's going to do is get you swept by a great team, or a gentleman's sweep by a great team that's going to come out and annihilate you, because you don't give them any pivot move when it comes. You don't have a game plan. The game plan is to isolate. Think about what the game plan of the Knicks is offensively, to isolate.
It's this 1990s offense.
1990s isolation play. When this gets into the playoffs, all the Knicks fans have worked their way up to, you know, cheering for this team, and we're probably going to get swept. We need to break that, but you probably are.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, they're not a good shooting team, right? So we've seen during the season when teams get down, they'll go to a zone because they know the Knicks can't shoot. They're not good outside shooters, so they'll go to a zone, and that's when they make their comebacks.
Game's over.
So yeah, so those are things that are going to happen. You're right. They need to do that. Even Grimes, like, they got to get him hitting his shot again. You got to get him hitting his shot, his outside shot. Like, that's what he does. That's what he's here for. So you have to get him doing that again and doing that well, so that, you know, come playoff time, like you said, he's primed and ready to go. I mean, it always goes back to the coach. Like, it really does. And, you know, that's why the best thing that could happen to them, long term, is that they do get swept in the playoffs. If that happens, he won't be back. I can't imagine he'll be back if that happens. So what is happening is the All-Star break. So we're at the All-Star break right now. As we said when I started the show, Quentin Grimes will be in the Rising Stars game. Jericho Sims will be in the Slam Dunk contest. And as of now, only Julius Randle will be representing the Knicks in the All-Star game. There is still possibility that if Jaylen Brown doesn't play, Brunson might get whatever. We don't know any of that yet, but that's what so the Knicks will be represented at the All-Star game, which is very nice. Like I'll say that it's always better to have a rooting interest when the All-Star game comes. See one of your guys out there. I don't watch the game anymore. I used to love it, but as an adult, it's just kind of like, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think the key things we need at the All-Star break is for, like you said, RJ needs to get right. We need to get him right during this break. Grimes, like I just mentioned, he has to redefine his shot again because he's been struggling from outside. Hopefully Robinson comes back healthy so they have him again, and they can he'll be reintegrated back into the team. Man, that guy has so many bad breaks, literally so many bad breaks. So sad. Yep. But I would say that's probably it. Those are probably the keys. I could say we need more minutes for Obi, but I'm not stupid. That's not going to happen. So. So that's not going to happen. But 22 games left. So just throw out. I'll just throw out what you think their record's going to be in the final 22 games.
Oh wow!
Without looking at the schedule. Don't look at the schedule.
I won't look at that. I'd probably have them all as L's if I look at the schedule. Well, I had them at. What is the current record? What are they? So
they're 33-27 right now.
33-27. I had them winning 41 this year.
So they have to win 8 more games to do.
So they have to get 8, which I think they will definitely exceed that.
Right.
We're probably looking at. I know they have the 9th hardest schedule, I think, in NBA.
Yeah, they play a lot of good teams the second half of the season.
I'm going to say they probably will end up. I might go a little bit over the 41. I might go 45. They may end up with 45. I don't think they won't get 50. I would be extremely shocked. But they've been on a good streak here. But I also know it's All-Star weekend coming up, and teams tend to drift. So how serious are you about playing going into the All-Star game?
Right.
So I don't, because see this team, I'm going to go 45. I'm going to stick it at 45 as the height.
All right, so you're saying they're going to win. They're going to go 12-10 the rest of the season. That's what you're saying.
That sounds about right because they're about 2. They're usually 2 games over 500 all season. So
that's true. That's probably fair. I'm cheating right now. I'm looking at the schedule. So, but yeah, I mean, they actually.
Who's their toughest opponent? Say their top 5 toughest opponents. You don't. It doesn't have to. Whoever's on the schedule.
Well, they play Boston twice. They play Denver.
Yeah, that's a loss.
They play Denver at home. Yeah, they're not good at home. You're right. It's probably a loss. Oh, they play Miami. They play Indiana twice. They play Cleveland. Those are probably the toughest matchups.
Right now. I think 40. I think 45 will probably be it. I mean, if they don't come off this break uninspired.
Well, their first game is against the Wizards next Friday.
Wizards playing better too. Wizards are motivated to come out. Well, they beat the Knicks the last time, I believe.
And then that's the first of 3 games in 4 nights. They play Friday on Washington. They play Saturday home against New Orleans, and then they play Monday at Boston. Oh no, home against Boston. So it's 3 games in 4 nights that they'll be playing.
They'll probably take an L against Boston at home. The season is going to be that Miami. They play Miami 3 times, I believe.
7, 8.
Close out the season.
They play 10 home games and 12 road games.
See, I would love to trust the home games.
Can't. Not with them.
It's just I can't. We're 500 now at home.
Yeah, Miami 3 times. You're right.
The Miami 3 times. I just trust Spoelstra over Thibodeau. They've been out coaching us.
Well, 2 of them are in Miami, and that's always not a good place you want players going. Yeah. Especially when the weather's starting to get nicer, which it will be.
A little low. When LeBron said I'm taking it to South Beach, he said I'm taking it to Miami. So
Yeah.
When Rick Ross said, "Club live till I die," I don't know. The Miami series is going to be pretty interesting because I don't think Miami's. I don't know. Miami, I think fell off from what they were, but they always beat the Knicks. Their defense has always been like.
We beat them the last game we played. We beat them.
But I felt like Jimmy Butler was not in that game.
He wasn't.
He wasn't. Off with him. Jimmy usually is the guy. And maybe Miami's suffering. I mean, anytime you add Kyle Lowry to a team and tell him to get in shape, I don't know how that was supposed to ever work. Shout out to Craig. You probably love that statement. But, I always laugh when you hear about these trades come down and people get, we get Kyle Lowry, we get whatever. I always laugh because I'm like, does Kyle Lowry know they have like a body fat measurement in Miami? Because I thought it was hilarious when they said that they were trading for him and no one who runs the Miami Heat. I'm like, this is not going to end well because he
was when they first got him, he was kind of okay, but he's clearly been spending lots of time at the buffet because this dude, he does not look in shape at all. Which is he's always been a little like a thicker guy. He's
Thicky Henderson. He's definitely Thicky Henderson.
He's always been, but now he's gotten older, like we all know. When you get older, if you're thick, it doesn't get easier. It gets harder. so like I think he didn't expect that to happen. And it happens fast. We all know that too. It happens really fast. Like one day you're 39, you turn 40, and then you're like, everything hurts. Like it's the craziest thing in the world.
He said, give me a Cuban sandwich, just hold the pickles. I'm dying.
Dude, he's so like, so I don't know, but I always worry about teams to me who have better players than our team has. And I think that both Adebayo and Butler are better than Brunson and Randall. So for me, that's what I look at. Like if these two teams are fighting neck and neck, I'm going to give Miami the edge because I feel like their star talent's better than our star talent. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
So obviously Jimmy Butler's been weird this year, but when he's at his best, he's one of the better guards in the league. Like, so I look at him that way. So those 3 games are going to be tough. They definitely will be tough. And they probably will decide at the end who gets the higher seed. Like that's just,
I agree.
Those 3 games will probably be, but it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. I want to split down the middle and just say 11 and 11, just because it's a nice, nice 500 down the stretch, make the playoffs. And that would put them again at 44 wins, which I think I said beginning of the season, their limit would be 44, 45. So if I get that, I would be pat myself on the back, be very happy about that.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see how the season ends. I'm very, very, and see how the players that we've been talking about, especially the younger guys, how they progress as the season goes along. And barring injury, I do think they're locked into the 5 or 6.
I think the thing that I'm gonna put my little bit of break on for saying 45 is that this is coming down the stretch. There's going to be a different level of play also from the opponents. Unless there's a team that is checked out, knowing they're not going to be in the playoffs and they're playing for a lottery pick, the Knicks are going to be in a dogfight every night after All-Star break because teams are trying to get into the playoffs. So the Miami series is going to be very tough. Washington, they're pushing. That's going to be pretty tough as well. So you're going to have guys pushing towards the finish line just like the Knicks. Is whether the Knicks will have the mental stability to hold on and the toughness.
I agree. Yep. I mean, it's crazy how good Washington has been playing. It really is. They've been playing very, very, very good. And Beal is back now too. So, they have their 2 with their 3 if you're including Kuzma, between KP, Beal, and Kuzma. So yeah, I mean they're gonna be tough. None of the teams on the schedule, except maybe Houston, are teams I look at and say, the Knicks should win that game.
All of the maybe Brooklyn now too. I don't know. I guess I have to see, but there's really not one of those teams I look at and say, "Oh, that's a win." So yeah, it's gonna be tough down the stretch this year, but it's gonna be fun. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun to continue to talk about this every week, and to continue to break down this team every week, especially as we see them now. As we both think they're going to be definitely a playoff team. A real playoff team, not in the play-in tournament. We both think they're going to be a real playoff team. So it's going to be fun to see how this ends up. But that's our time for today.
Yes, sir.
So, Ty, give them a little bit about where they could talk to you and tell them what you're up to.
So you can check me out at Genius Scribble on Twitter. You can also check me out on our All Knicked Up fan page on Facebook. Hit me up with some comments and give us some suggestions on topics that we could discuss. I'm always going to put out some material, and we should be looking to have a special guest coming in at least in a few couple weeks. I'm trying to set up some stuff there to get some different looks for us as far as our conversational pieces. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, it's good for us to start expanding the show and including other people. Maybe even reach out to some of the people we know who watch us and ask them if they want to pop on.
Yep.
That might be fun to do. Have some fans of the show come on and talk to us, because that's those fans that we're talking about. We met them the same way we met each other. So it would be cool to have some of them come on and talk with us going forward before the end of the season, and then into the off season, where we know is always a fun time to talk about maybe players acquisitions or trades or whatever. So that should be a fun wind down the second half of the year. If you guys want to talk to me, you see right there on the screen at Finally33, spelled Finale 33, as you can see on Twitter, also on Instagram. If you guys have Instagram, you can hit me up there as well. If you guys want to hit up the show account, it's at all_Knicked_up on Twitter as well. I've been tweeting. I've been a little bit more active there, tweeting with the rest of the Knick fan community and a lot of the other shows that are on there, trying to gauge their interest in possibly coming on or doing something together. So we'll see if I can get something done there on that front. I'll talk about my other creative ventures that I do on in the podcasting and live streaming world. If you are into Batman and superheroes and movies and pop culture, I do a show called Straight Outta Gotham with my co-host Peter Vera. It's on Twitter. It's at straight_O_G. Last week, this past the Super Bowl on Sunday, we did a live stream right after the Super Bowl discussing the new Flash trailer, which was fun to do. We did it from our the Iceberg Lounge, which is our show where it's a live stream we do where we get people from other podcasts in the community to come on and we talk about stuff. It's always a fun way for us to collaborate. So we did that on Sunday. So that's still live. If you want to see that, you can go to our YouTube page, the Straight Outta Gotham YouTube page, and check that out over there. And that's it, I think. I'm trying to think I'm not doing anything else. No. So that's it. So again, I want to thank everyone who came to watch us. We appreciate the support as always. And we will be back here next week, barring something crazy happening. We should be back here next Wednesday night. Hopefully Craig will be back and join us. Quit his job or something. No, I'm kidding. Well, hopefully Craig will be back to join us to complete the trio. And we could talk about, do they play next week? I want to see real quick. I think they don't play till Friday. So it's still, yeah. So we'll be having I guess we'll do an outlook show on, we kind of talked about what we expect. So we'll do an outlook. Maybe we'll do like a player specific outlook on what we expect them to do the second half of the season. That could be, those things are always fun. Or maybe we'll do the ever famous win-loss through the schedule. The last 22 games, we'll do a win-loss thing with the three of us. That could be fun as well.
That's true.
So again, guys, thanks for watching. For Ty, I'm Eric. You're watching All Knicked Up, and we'll see you next week.